Come here. Get off.
Today we're talking to Vanesa Evers, pronouns she, they, and them. Vanessa is a librarian and artist whose work confronts and translates Bible scriptures and other historical texts. Vanessa debuted their first play, a performance, The Declaration of Independence, a translation, in 2018 in Philly. Vanessa hopes to feature their first visual creative project soon. Hey, Vanessa.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
So we're really hyped to have you today. Again, thank you so much for joining us. And I'd like to start with the question, what did little Vanessa want to do when she grew up? When they grew up?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I am a military brat, an army brat. So we moved about every 3 years to a new place. So I liked to recreate myself every place, every new city or state I went to. And I just liked talking and I liked writing, and I had have 3 siblings, and I just really liked to be by myself sometimes and read. So I think I'm doing the things that I was doing and I knew I was going to be doing, reading and writing and talking to people.
Like us.
Yay. So where do you consider home?
Wow. Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad retired in Georgia, and I went to high school for 2 years in Ohio and 2 years in Georgia. So
What part of Ohio?
Tiffin, Ohio. So Toledo.
Okay.
All right.
About an hour,
West.
about an hour from Toledo.
Okay.
And my
I'm from
family's
Cleveland.
okay. Yeah, my stepdad's from Cleveland, but my parents are from Fostoria in Toledo. Yeah.
Never. I'm like, I know one other person from Toledo, and I think I have been there exactly once. It was for like an NAACP conference when I was in high school or something.
Okay.
I think that's it. Word.
Yeah, but
Ohio
Georgia's
connection.
home. Yeah.
Okay. So how did you come to your current work?
Well, I wrote a lot. I wrote in 8th grade. I had a piece published in the newspaper, and I was one of the only 3 Black families in Tiffin, and it was about racism. And I had a lot of really horrible things happen when I was living in Ohio, actually. So that's why I consider Georgia to be home, because that's just when I was just like, oh, I'm a Black woman, like when I got to Georgia. So, yeah, I really started doing a lot of writing then. And sorry, can you repeat that part again?
I was asking, how did you come to do what your
Yeah,
current work?
writing. Just writing. That I think that's I really started to feel like I have to write. This is in me, and it's really important for me to write.
Okay. Pretty cool.
Yeah. It says in your bio that your work confronts and translates Bible scriptures and other historical texts. Can you tell us a bit about what that looks like?
Yes, so I have an MFA from Sarah Lawrence, and when I was writing my thesis, I really started realizing that I was having some conflict whenever I was reading the Bible. And born Christian, in a Christian household, raised in a Christian household, so the Bible, church, I was in church probably every day of the week, choir, praise team, all of the things. And so I really started to think about the Bible differently when I got to my grad program, and started to look at the Bible, kind of separating out the religious pieces from the Bible and kind of like looking at the stories and what was happening to the women in the Bible. And so from that, I started to translate Genesis. And from there, I also started to translate different legal texts like the Declaration of Independence, because I just was like, who was this written for? And asking a lot of questions. And from that, I began to just kind of write a lot of poetry around translating these different types of writings and documents that we really don't engage with in that way.
That's really dope. We have talked about in a few other episodes about our conflict with the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
We were both raised in Christian homes, and I think I was saying both were saying we did how they have the app, the Bible every
Mm-hmm.
year,
Yeah.
and you get through the Old Testament, you're like, shit, dang, we're
Right.
us.
Right.
Yeah, it's good to see that you were doing the work and leaving something for us to read that reflects us
Yeah.
in the things that we were raised in,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is hard because, like, I remember we both were really looking for, like, womanist texts that helps to translate the Bible so that we could get, a translation that was through the eyes of a black woman, and having a lot of trouble, like, coming across that.
Yeah, that's as I was reading it, and also as a black woman, and just as women, and what's happening to women in the Bible, and what's happening to their bodies, and so I ended up. It's really, and my mom, maybe one day will read these poems, but I really looked at the sexualization of women in the Bible and what's happening to the body. So I really don't even use names like Eve and all of that. I just kind of look at the she in the Bible and see what's happening sexually, rape, like just the things that are happening to women in the Bible. So that's actually a project that I'm going to be working on, is continuing with those poems and seeing what can come of a mini collection or something.
Oh, that's really dope. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So, how does your work as a librarian work in concert with your art?
Yeah, so I call myself a librarian. I just graduated with I went back to grad school because my MFA in poetry, I was able to do a couple of adjuncting gigs, is really all I can call them. And I was like, I can't live like this. So I had to go back to school. And also, I have a love of books and just with information. So I just graduated actually last year with my degree in librarian information.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah,
With my
congrats.
MLIS. And so my current position, I'm a program manager for a cultural heritage program, but I just consider myself to be a librarian because I lead people to information. So I think now I just read a lot. Listen, I've been doing during this last 4 months of quarantine and stay at home. I've been doing a lot of audiobooks and YA, and so I just librarianship for me, just the information aspect of it is just bringing people to information.
I think it's really dope that you chose to get a degree in library sciences. Is that a really white space?
Yes, it is. And that was when I went to Drexel University. It was all predominantly online. I
Mhm.
also minored in museum leadership. Um, all of my
You were
classes,
great.
yeah, thank you. All of my classes, and they were virtual, yes, but you saw the people's faces. But yeah, it was
And a white
pretty.
space is a white space, whether it's
Yeah,
virtual or in person.
right. And you could feel it too in those spaces. Just the things, especially for libraries, public libraries, academic libraries. I mean, we're serving really diverse communities, and just hearing some or seeing some of the feedback from my classmates on what services we should be providing to public libraries, how it should, it's not just about books, but it's about meals. Like, what can we do to help support communities? Yeah, it was just a day. It wasn't just about learning for me, but it also felt like I was like doing a lot of teaching to my classmates, just to open up their minds about the profession that they're about to enter. And I've never even worked in a public library before, but just know
Yeah.
what different communities need.
Yeah.
That can be an exhausting lift, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're the one that's in the space having to always bring up the issues to keep it community centered or work that is literally rooted in a community.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. The DC Public Library, their main headquarters downtown had this massive overhaul. They built, spent all this money on this beautiful building. And there was a lot of talk around what do we do with the homeless population, well, the unhoused population
Mm-hmm.
that spend a lot of time at the libraries. And the conversations just run the gamut from, this isn't their space. And I'm like, how is this not?
Yeah.
To
Whose
what
fucking space is it?
Right.
exactly. So it has been interesting watching from afar. So I can only imagine what it would feel like. And also some of these librarians show up because they, have a sincere love for that, but don't realize that they're also kind of getting into a world of social services. So
Right. And it also made me think too, what you're saying, like a lot of people in my classes knew that they were going to try to go directly to being the director of the library too. So it wasn't even about servicing and being at the reference desk in the first face when you're greeting folks that come in. They just knew that they were just going to be at a different level anyway. And so I think that also kind of helped in leading their conversation around limiting people's access to certain things
yeah.
because they're already coming in knowing that they're about to be in these higher leadership roles.
Yeah, that's some white entitlement shit.
Right.
Like, it's like
And
I'm not gonna work through it. Yeah.
Classism,
right.
all that shit.
And I mean, there's already studies out. 80% of librarians in leadership are white women, then white males, and then black men and women, and then Asian, Latinx. That just kind of is like 3% by the time you get out. So of the weight. So yeah.
Well, thank you for doing the work.
Yes, that's what I'm here for. Trying.
You are. So we've never had the pleasure of having a playwright on our show, I don't think. Can you tell us a bit about the show that you debuted in 2018?
Yes, and actually that was air. It's 2017. As I wrote that and then went back to my calendar, I was like, oh right, that was 2017. So it was actually 2017 in Philly. This was a long piece that I wrote, and I was reading a lot of Thomas Jefferson's writings.
He's a fucking trash
Right,
bag.
and
Hate that dude.
he rewrote the Bible. So he has a Bible version, Thomas Jefferson has a Bible, and he was taking out different miracles. So I kind of was just reading his stuff. I was like, and not even like I was holding the Bible. I was like, oh my gosh, how dare he? But then I was also like, oh wow, he had the audacity to rewrite the Bible. And so I was
That's
like,
what
oh,
That's what niggas always got, audacity.
right,
got shit else.
right. And so I
They
was
done
like,
found the audacity.
right. So I was like, oh, I'm going to rewrite the Declaration of Independence. Okay. So I just started, and it took me,
Yes, you can. I can too.
and it took me a really long time because of how I did. I broke it down and looked at the history of the words that were being used. And I kind of created an erasure project first, where I took all the words, typed them out from start to end, looked at certain words to see, I wonder if people know what this word means, and then did an erasure and then inserted in other words for that. And it was a performance piece, and I performed it during my thesis reading. But it was like a 7 or 8 minute reading. I think people were just kind of looking at me, and I was like, what's the best way for me to get this message across? So I set it down, and I was like, let me turn this into like a script. And so when I moved to Philly, and this is the place that can be done.
I was gonna say that's the perfect place to do it. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, the Liberty Bell, just the history also of different things in Philly. So I was like, oh, this is where I can do it. And so I found two amazing Black women who agreed to be a part of my cast. I set it in the same period with the costumes, the setting, just everything was in that period, all the way down to the quill pens. And it was a performance poem. Still, it's almost like kind of into Zaki Shange's is like a performance, a choreo poem, but just a performance. And so definitely experimentation. And I just had them writing, but reading what the actual declaration is, and just had the audience kind of like there interacting in a way at the end they could ask questions. So definitely exploration. It wasn't like really like actual cast and here's your lines, but it was just really the declaration. And then I had to say her name, Black women, Black cis and trans women who have lost their lives due to police brutality in the backdrop. And so just really a conversation of, hey guys, this is what the declaration means. This is who it didn't mean. This is who we should be incorporating in, and how can we create our own words and leadership around the really recreating this time for us. And that was back in 2017. And so I'm still working on figuring out that project. And just as an artist, and just, you have this idea to begin, and then it kind of just morphs into off the page in a way of like, how can you incorporate community?
So, what drives you to write?
At first, I think it was like, oh, I can't go to bed unless I write this poem. But then now I'm working, even remotely, and I'm like, oh man, let me write, a couple of words and go to bed because I have to go to bed and wake up. So I think now just still, especially I'm really into YA, and I just read Echo Brown's Black Girl Unlimited, and in the end of her book, she was like, I have to write. And as we know, all of the women, Black women that are writing and have passed and are still here with us, writing for other people. And I'm like, I have to keep writing because there could be somebody that is trying to do the same thing, needs help, is going through the same thing that I'm experiencing. I think so maybe the writing has to be building the community and just letting people know that you're not alone.
Right. So you mentioned something that it always really sparks my interest. So I've been working at home for the last 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm kind of fascinated about what work looks like for people who are suddenly at home during the pandemic. So what do your work days look like?
Yeah, it's been really, I'm a night owl, and so it was really good for me to know I have to go to bed by midnight because I have to be up and to work by 9. But now it's like really self-discipline and really holding myself accountable, because I'm like up listening to my audiobooks or just like coloring or just things to like keep myself occupied while in the house. So now it looks like me knowing that for the next 4 hours, I need to be doing this, regardless of if I start at 10, 11, or 12, I need to be doing this. I'm heavily at administrative role, so emailing all the things, but also making sure that I'm creating boundaries within my home space. Because now, I mean, for people that are newly working remotely, I would never be emailing while cooking dinner. So just really trying to maintain like boundaries and reminding myself that I actually have a lot of things that need to be done, even if I want to go to bed and take a midday nap.
Those midday
naps get them.
I feel like I said somewhere, I said a nap is like a kiss on the cheek from God. Like, it's just so sweet.
Yes, it is. But also this is like a good time where people are realizing you don't have to be in the office for 40 hours a week. It's so unhealthy.
Don't have to commute.
Yeah, like you should be. I just think that there's a lot of space here for people to realize what's necessary and what's not necessary during this time.
Especially, when you look at policies that keep people from doing that, for whom it really is a necessity, right? Like, this has brought up a lot of conversations about accessibility and disability and whatnot. Like, it's bigger than us.
Yeah. I like you, I was in an office and am now working from home, and I'm realizing that there was a lot of bullshit going on in the office. Like, you can really condense a lot into the workday. And I think people are realizing that those meetings that could have been emails are actually now emails. It saved us a whole lot of time.
Right. Or even just a phone call.
Yeah.
Like sometimes for like 5 minutes. What are we really meeting for? I mean, I've been on Zoom quite often. So I'll just say that.
Yeah, that's one thing though. Everybody wants to see everybody now, and I'm like, dude, we could just get on the phone. I don't have to like do my hair.
I don't turn on my camera. Like, no.
Yeah, I've actually started to not turn on my camera too, because I've had a person or two ask me about things in my background, and it feels just very invasive.
That's why I have a screen.
Right, which I love.
I've been doing this for so long because I'm like, you don't need to be looking around my house. That's personal.
Yes, I'm not there yet, but that's awesome.
Yeah. So, as you know, we read a few poems from Black lesbians. We are the revolution on our show. Why was it important for you to contribute to that project?
When I came out over like 10 something years ago, and now I'm looking back like, man, Vanessa, did you have to really do that? Could you have just walked in this truth without it being such a conversation with my mom, without such a heavy conversation with my dad, who I haven't really spoken to after I came out? um, we haven't really spoken and been as close as we had been before.
I'm sorry
Um,
to hear that.
and it's okay. And that's all, that's what therapy is for. And
Yes,
I
ma'am.
like,
You can
I
fill
am
out therapy on your bingo
right.
card.
And I'm like, it's not even about me. It's about him. And so, and we haven't actually spoken in over 2 years now. And I don't know. So that relationship, well, if it happen, if we get it back, we get it back. If not, there's a lot of other people in my life that I can consider to be really great father figures. But my mom, like, I had the conversation. I was like, if you're gonna love me, you're gonna love everything about me. And if this is a part of me, I took women, or I introduced her to my women friends, who, because I was like, oh, we're not together, but I introduced her to folks. I'm like, kind of really forced her to see this as my whole person. So now I'm like, oh, dang, what if I could have just like walked in that truth without having these conversations? But so now, like, I still think I don't know. I'm still like, man, did I need that? And why did I need to say those things? But with my poetry that I write, and I mean, I've done Lambda literary retreats. They have our stuff up online. Like, I think it was important for me to just have this conversation with my mom, be honest with her. But then also, like, the other folks that have read my stuff and have said, wow, Vanessa, because I ended up writing like really sexual stuff. And I don't even know, like, I wasn't reading, because I know sometimes people ask questions like, oh, who are you reading? But I wasn't even reading anybody that was talking about the stuff, or so sexual, even though I know there are writers that do that, but I wasn't even reading any of it. I just was like, I am gay. I need to write all the things. Like, I was expressing myself through my poetry, very sexual self, through my poetry. So I think it was just important for me to just kind of do the thing, and maybe other people could also feel liberated by me being so candid about the different sexual experiences that I've had.
Well, that turns me to my next question, which is why do you think poetry is a good vehicle for the erotic?
Mm. And I think I heard y'all. Oh, that's a good question, because I listened to y'all. And I was like, oh man.
Thanks.
I think it's an area where you could just experiment the same way that you can experiment in the bedroom. Poetry is like a way that you can experiment with words and experiment with who you are sexually. And even I revisit the two poems that were published in that collection. And at first I thought it's like a questioning thing too. Like, it's definitely like a intimate relationship with you and the words, with yourself in these moments. And I think even as I was looking back at the two poems, I thought that I was saying that the person was actually role playing, but I was like, oh, like the actual act of it was a role play for in one of the poems. It was actually role play for the both of us, or for all. It's all role play. It's all like, even me writing these poems is also me stepping into this other person as well. So, maybe a way for me to be able to express myself sexually.
Like that.
So, the back of the book has a quote from Pat Parker that really resonates with me. And it says, the day the different parts of me can come along, we will have what I will call a revolution. What does revolution look like to you?
I think definitely freedom, expression, sexual expression, like just being able to really create the world that we know that the US, like whatever with it, but what can we do with our community? I just always keep coming back to the word community, and how we can really create the things that we want has to be revolutionary, and not being afraid to move forward, knowing that we might lose out on some things, but also what we gain is freedom and just our community once we're able to connect with folks. Yeah. Being able to express yourself openly without fear.
Yeah. So we read two of your poems on the show last week, Questioning and Nonfiction. And Questioning grapples with the stereotypes that a mother just off page projected on lesbians and thus her daughter. What was the genesis of this poem?
Yeah, the coming out to my mom and me imagining, um, yeah, I imagining how to put that whole conversation into, because I write very short poems. So imagining what that conversation would look like in poem form. But when I came out to my mom, or when I had this conversation with her, she was like, "Oh, I knew you hanging out with this one person, and I knew that it was not you, it's this other person that's doing it to you." And I'm like, "No, it's actually such a strong desire of who I am." And even the way that I told her was like, I have really strong, deep connections with women that I would like to explore in a sexual way. Oh, that's just a best friend. That's just a best friend. I'm like, no, the attraction that I have makes me want to please in like this other way that's beyond that is friendship, but also beyond in this like very sexual way. But also friendships can have that as well. But I just was like, I have to get to the root of this attraction, and it's sexual, it's intimate, it's friend, it's platonic, it's all the things. Yeah, and I was like, oh man, I'm actually this person that my mom is afraid that that's leading me into this lifestyle, quote unquote. I was like, it's actually me that she's really.
Surprise.
You're like, I'm the influence.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm actually who you're afraid of, in a way, that I'm becoming this person that I'm already the person that you're afraid that yeah, it was like a whole weird kind of circle that that the poem came from.
Yeah. So the other one that we read was nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
And that also brings up themes of family. In this
Yeah.
case, as someone goes down on their partner's strap. How do you think our relationships with our families and their attitudes towards sex and gender inform our adult relationships? And
Mm-hmm.
why is this important terrain for you to explore?
Wow, say that one more time.
Yeah. How do you think that our relationships with our families and their attitudes towards sex and gender inform our adult relationships?
Um,
Intimate and otherwise, honestly.
yeah. I mean, I never saw my mom and dad. They're not together. They're divorced and both remarried. But I never saw kissing or anything. Um, I never saw slightly intimate moments. So I think for me, even in like one of the questions y'all asked in the vehicle poetry uses, I think for me, I got to also recreate intimacy that I wanted to see. And not to say that I wanted to see my parents in this very intimate way, but I wanted to see what love looked like for them, physical attraction looked like. And so it was easy for me, out of one, things happening in my life and me being very sexually involved in ways, but I wanted to create these scenarios on what this could look like. And so that's that's a really intense question that I think that I need time. I'm so sorry to think about that, because it's
Don't be
really,
sorry for wanting to be thoughtful.
yeah, that's really interesting. If you can ask the second part of that question.
Sure. Why is this important terrain for you to explore with your work?
Yeah. I think it's really important for me to be able to write out, and it's not even fantasy, but be able to write out these really intense moments of role play, of um, masculine identified lesbians, trans, the different ways that I might even explore within myself, but that other people are actually like grappling with in these really intimate ways of being with each other and looking at to see, do I want this because I want it? Do I want this because I have been taught to want it? Especially that particular scene of going down, we think that that's what we want to give, be able to give our partner, especially somebody that might not have been born with an actual body piece, the actual penis, but the strap on, and how important at certain times in my life strap ons have been in intimate moments. But then also, what does this mean that I'm doing this? What does it mean that I want to do it to help you see that I see you as this very masculine person as well? So I think for me, just with that poem and the other poems that I write, I think that I try to help to free people or to help move them along in their journey of representation through these very, I didn't even like when I was with, had been sexual with cis men. I never even liked that. But I will do this for you because I know that this is how you're identifying. And I know that that's how you want to be experienced in my mouth. Like that's,
Yeah.
I don't know, that's just kind of where and I think it's like freeing to be able to read that and to also be able to write it for myself, and looking at it wasn't just about me doing this for you, but it was also about maybe you were doing these things for me too. It's like just the freedom of the act, and to be able to write about it. Yeah, that's a hard one though.
No, but
That's
that was a
a
That was a
really great
wonderful
answer.
answer.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a really great answer.
oh, thanks.
So you say you're reading lots of young adult.
Mhm.
Uh, can you give us a few titles of what you're reading right now?
Yeah, in audio, a lot of I'm in audio world right now because I'm on my computer a lot for work. So I'm trying to give my eyes a break. And I love hearing authors read their stuff. But what got me into YA really, really was Jacqueline Woodson, and her
Always
another,
dreaming.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I ended up looking at reading the majority of her YA, and always go back to Another Brooklyn. Um,
Right.
but I let me see. I had to write down the list because I'm on like 15 books for the free library, audiobooks. But yeah,
Wow.
Yes.
yeah, they have a really great selection of audiobooks. But like I mentioned earlier, Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown, and now even Leading from the Outside by Stacey Abrams. I had to kind of switch away a little bit, but and also Akata Witch and Akata Warrior by Nanetti Okorafor. Um, so yeah, those have been my two YA. So I'm always reading a YA and also reading maybe an autobiography too. So yeah, but definitely those are books. Echo Brown and Stacey Abrams are two people that I'm just trying to get. I was trying to get Stacey Abrams as well, such an amazing writer, and trying to get some encouragement from her.
This is a time when you need to be
Yeah.
Encourage.
Yeah.
encouraged.
Yeah.
What does success look like to you?
Um, it's success. I thought I'm at a really, good company. Um, I live actually in Charlottesville, um, and which is recent. But yeah, I think that success looks like really living. I think that asking maybe before March, I'd have been like, oh, going on vacation and like being able to do these different things.
Yes,
But
vacation.
having been kind of in like real self isolation I haven't been to the office in over 100 days and seen maybe more than three people in 100 days. I think now success just looks like being able to walk outside and feel happy, being surrounding yourself with people that care about you, doing things that make you happy, eating good food. It's success. I think, like, I don't even think it's about a paycheck anymore, because a lot of people, so many people have lost their jobs at the beginning of the year. They had the job. So I think now it's just really being happy, doing the things that make you happy, and being surrounded by people and things that make you happy, and being able to go outside and sit in the grass and eat.
Yeah.
2020 is such an interesting year, right? Like, it's taken a lot from us, but I think it's also given us a new perspective on a lot of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
It's helped us to be more, some of us to be more community minded. Some of us to do the opposite, but
Yeah.
this, either way, like, this is going to be like a landmark year.
I was going to say, this has been a crucible year. Like, it has been life changing.
Literally generation defining. Like, you know, as a 39-year-old, you know, the thing I think that used to define us was September 11th, but we got some new shit now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so little fun now. I am going to say a word, and you tell me the first word that comes to mind when I say it, okay?
Okay.
That sounds scary.
I know. I'm like, wait.
Don't be. I only have a few. Words.
Playground.
Black.
Ice cream. My favorite ice cream is this black marshmallow ice cream. And the ice cream shop closed down.
Oh. Okay. Joy.
Bubblegum.
Food.
Ramen. I have a ramen cookbook. I love ramen.
Oh, no, what's that?
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because I love ramen, and I love, like, what can I do to it this time?
Yeah, like, what can I add into it?
Okay, finish this sentence. I am a...
A lover.
I love it. Okay. Well, that's all I've got for you.
That wasn't that scary.
See? We don't bite. Or, I mean, we do, but...
We definitely do. What's up next for you?
Yeah, so I just had a conversation with a really dear, close friend yesterday, and I was like, I am getting tired of talking about these things that I want to do. How can we do these things? And so I need accountability. And so I am going to be trying, like I just was sharing with y'all, finishing up my Bible poems. Two, I've been working with some photography things, me and my cell phone, but photography, and thinking about what I can do. I cannot let this thesis go yet because it took too long to write it. So what are ways that I can revise it, and then bring visuals to it. And then I'm just really obsessed with the Declaration of Independence still. And so I just have a couple more projects that I need to wring out from that before I can let it go.
That's awesome. Where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram. My page is private, but people can send me, requests if you want to. But at Vanesa, ANESAVA on Instagram.
Dope. Thank you so much for coming on this week.
And thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this. So thank y'all so much.
Yay!
And that's it for this week's episode of The Turn On. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week. This episode was produced by us, Kenrya and Erica, and edited by Ballistic. The theme music is from Brazy. Now you can support The Turn On and get off. Subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app, then drop us a 5-star review and you'll be entered to win one of the things that's turning us on. To enter, just post your review and email a screenshot of it to theturnonpodcast@gmail.com. Our Patreon page is also live. Become a supporter today and you'll access lots of goodies, including the Turn On Book Club and 2-for-1 raffle entries. Don't forget to send us your book recommendations and sex and related questions, and follow us on Twitter at The Turn On Pod and Instagram at The Turn On Podcast. You can find links to books, merch, transcripts, guest info, and other fun stuff at theturnonpodcast.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye!